Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We're on episode 10 of season 4 of Attack on Titan, and I'm not gonna lie, it's been a couple days since I've seen episode 9. Episode 9 is probably one of my, I felt so good about that discussion, and y'all are probably gonna hate it because it's 2.5 hours long, but I felt so good about the discussion. It's like the second longest, aside from the basement, it's the longest discussion I've had for an episode, but there was so much to unpack, and I feel like episode 5 has just come out on YouTube and episode 7 has just come out on Patreon. And I'm slowly realizing with everyone's comments that this is probably going to be the case for the rest of the season and the rest of season 4 as a whole. But I feel like Isayama, throughout the course of this season, is just giving us more and more perspectives, and he's slowly peeling back more and more layers of how complicated this world is and how complicated the situation is, that the thoughts I had back in episode 5 have changed up until episode 9 and are probably going to change in this episode and keep evolving, because I think I have an idea of what's going on, and then Isayama will reveal a detail that I'm like, oh, well, that changes this. So if I say something in episode 5 and I change my mind 6 episodes later, that's likely the case. So, but I have some notes before we start from those, and I want to say first and foremost, I rewatched my discussion for episode 10. I was like building something today, so I need something on in the background, and I can't get on social media, so this is my only resort. But I realized that I'm gonna try to play Eldian's advocate throughout the rest of the season. I'm gonna try to be as neutral as possible. Last discussion with episode 9, I felt so connected with what Armin was saying that I feel like a lot of my personal opinions kind of meld in with Armin's in this series at the moment. And so I'm going to try to play Eldian advocate, be neutral to everybody, and kind of reflect, because there were some things said that I'm going to make note of that I do want to address. And so I'm like, okay, cool. And plus, this is just my opinion. I'm just a fan of this show. I'm just a teacher that's talking about something I really like. So I'm not a political science major. Take with that what you will. I just like rambling about stuff that I enjoy. So Tony Simi made a comment with episode 7 that the headcanon, and I didn't realize this, and now I'm really sad, the headcanon is that Levi wears Erwin's cape because he left his cape draped over Erwin, so the cape that he wears is Erwin's. R.I.P. Hashtag sad. Quoentrell noted that Falco, his dream at the beginning of episode 1 of season 4 is an anime-only thing. Again, I'm really excited to get into the manga and see what all changes and what all has been left out and been added to the anime. I think that's really cool. I like it. Alex Johnson noted that the shell on the stage for episode 5 is actually a representation of Marley and not the Tibers. And I was like, oh, which kind of makes all the more sense because it's the shell. It's all polished and pretty on the outside, but on the inside it's hollow and doesn't have any substance. Right? But I also thought it was a really cool tie-in to last episode with the shell that Armin holds. So it's like the dream that Armin has, yeah, it's a really nice dream. It's really idealistic, but is there any weight to it? And it's like, it's very complicated, right? Owen B said that the vow to renounce war reminded him of Japan's Article 9, and in their constitution that outlaws war as a means of settling conflict and settling disputes, and wonders if Isayama, and I agree with you, connects that with parody. And we make the assumption, I said in the last couple episodes, that parody was maybe a representation of Madagascar. That was a place that they wanted to take the Jewish population to during World War II. But it also could be a reference to Japan. I think it's very fair to assume that Isayama would combine a lot of references together in his world building. You know, like you do. I thought that was neat, so thank you for that. Some dude noted that with the Jean and Peak ship, that it's kind of funny because Jean is often referred to as a horse, Peak is a cart. My crack ship lives. I love that people are on board with the crack ship of John and Peak. I really like it. I'm all about it. And some dude in Polygon also noted, and I think this is really important, that in episode 7, there is a translation issue. The episode that I watched, and this line has bugged me ever since episode 7, when Zeke says, Eren Yeager is not my enemy. I was like, why would you tell that to the other Titan warriors? Why would you say that out loud? And both Polygon and some dude note that there is a translation issue and that the literal translation is that I'm no match for Eren Yeager. And I was like, oh, okay, saying that he doesn't want to fight him because he doesn't think he can win. That changes the whole context, and that makes much more sense in the moment. It makes sense why Peek and Porco are nervous, because they're thinking, oh, our guy, Zeke can't face Eren. That's problematic. That makes much more sense. So thank you for that. Make Me Dinosaur and Polygon were both talking on Patreon about Armin's Colossal Titan form, and I guess there's a fan theory, because if you look at the Colossal Titan form in episode 7, there's no ears. there's no ears on that colossal titan form. And there are clearly, as per my guide, there are clearly ears on the Bertolt colossal titan. So their theory is, the fan theory is that Armin's titan form doesn't have ears because he doesn't want to hear like the sounds of screams of people that he kills. Which is pretty morbid and disturbing. Now, some of them on Patreon were saying that's just a fan theory, it's not confirmed, but I still think that's interesting. I still think it's pretty neat to note out. Polygon also noted that Reiner in episode 7, his transformation is kind of symbolic of Reiner regaining his humanity because the Titan form he takes looks more humanoid and Eren looks more monstrous in the episode. And Eren does look very monstrous in episode 7. Like him just sitting there waiting to gulp down the Warhammer Titan. It's pretty terrifying, but I thought that was really, really interesting. And also made the parallel of how in the past, Reiner ran away when Marcel died. When the Jaw Titan was lost, Reiner ran away and didn't defend him. But in this, 4 seasons later, Reiner defends Porco and saves him. So it's a nice little reversal there with Reiner's character. Also, I wanted to note that the non-Eldians, there was no Christopher Peterson. And Christopher Peterson noted how it was terrifying that Eren has both forced Porco to kill Lara. Like, he literally used his mouth as a nutcracker against Porco's will. It's a pretty disturbing scene. But also forced Armin to kill the people in the port. So his best friend was forced to kill people basically against his will to save Eren. So you have that. And then Eren is also, I noted in the last couple episodes about Armin being self-sacrificing. And I do forget sometimes that Eren can be self-sacrificing too. But Christopher Peterson notes that Eren is more self-sacrificing when he's at his lowest point. When he's really down as and I always think of Sin and Wish. In Wish, Eren just wanted to end it. He's like, just eat me and get it over with. Like, he was done. And was very self-sacrificing. And then in episode 12, Scream of season 2, he was self-sacrificing. So Eren does have those moments, but it's usually when he's at his lowest mental point. Whereas Armin's pretty self-sacrificing like all the time and is constantly self-loathing. So there's that to be noted. Christopher also notes that the non-Eldians in parody, it's interesting, and he was talking about the non-Eldians in parody, that there could be the nobles are just people from Marley or other countries that snuck in with King Fritz when he built the walls and became the nobles and and he noted that King Fritz could have let them take over and be nobles because King Fritz was like, well, we all deserve to die and we deserve it, so just do what you want. It's like, okay. But I thought after that, I was like, it's kind of interesting that now in the last episode, when they beat up Niccolo in the graveyard, you have these Marleyans who may or may not be nobles beating up on Niccolo, but claiming that they're Eldians, right? Claiming that they're citizens of parity, even if they're not. And that kind of parallels how a lot of the Eldians and Marley kind of tie themselves to Marley, even though they're not. So it's an interesting mirror there. I thought that was really cool. Also, Sacha Purvis noted that it's really sad that Armin had this dream of the sea, and in episode 7, he was forced to destroy the sea. So he's basically destroying his dream. And we see in this last episode, Armin's really sad because he doesn't think that the peace that he had hoped for is a possibility anymore. So it's really sad. Like, his dream has been destroyed. And so him holding the shell, it's like a hollow representation of a dream that once existed. And it makes me sad. So thanks for that. Thanks, Isayama. And then finally, I want to round out with El Barrio 97. And I want to tie this in. And I want to tie it in about Eren, because I think I give Eren a lot of flack in this, because Eren frustrates me a lot. And I think the main thing about that is, going back and rewatching the last couple episodes, the big thing is that we can't really get inside Eren's head. I feel like Isayama is saving a lot with Eren's character, because there's a lot of fill-in-the-blank moments that we haven't had answered yet. And I've noticed that I connect a lot with Armin in the show, but Armin's the narrator. Eren's the protagonist, the main protagonist, but Armin is the narrator. So like in the last episode, we were able to get into Armin's thoughts and see exactly what he thinks about these situations. And it helps you connect better to his character. With Eren, the only time I think we've really gotten Eren's head is when he's fighting someone. I think that's the only time we've really gotten into his headspace, when he was fighting somebody, when Armin was talking to him during Trost, when Reiner had a hold of him and he was fighting him, when he was fighting Annie, when he was fighting the Warhammer Titan. Whenever Eren is in a battle, we sometimes get into his head and see what his strategies are and see what his headspace is. But outside of battle, we don't really see a lot inside Eren's head, which makes sense. He's the attack Titan. We only see inside Eren's headspace when he's attacking someone. Isayama. So I think that's why I get a lot of disconnect with Eren, because I don't know what he's thinking. He's not as unreadable as Zeke, thank God, but he's still a little bit unreadable. But anyway, I wanted to make note, El Ribeiro talks about how he brings this up, because I was thinking, you know, I talked about understandment and communication, and El Ribeiro, I'm glad you brought this up, because he said, well, technically, in episode 5, Eren doesn't judge Reiner. Reiner came down to the basement thinking Eren was going to pass judgment over him and give him what he deserved, what he thought he deserved, which was death. Eren doesn't do that. Eren listens to him. He listens to him. He understands him. He communicates with him. He does what I was wanting him to do. But then he doesn't think he has any choice, and he attacks the internment zone because he's trapped. He doesn't think he doesn't believe there's no other choice, and this is what we have to do. Otherwise, they're going to attack Parody. So he does show understanding to Reiner, which is not what Reiner wants, but as this season has proven, Reiner is not getting what he wants. But yeah, so the most frustrating thing about this, and I'm going to connects to what El Ribeiro was saying, is that I got really frustrated with Willie in that episode. I think in episodes 4, 5, and 6, I was really frustrated with Willie because essentially Willie reveals at his theatrical performance in Declaration of War, he reveals that everything that we've told you the last 100 years has been a lie. Except now, it's not a lie. And so the people should be mad that Willie and them have lied to them the whole time. But because of Eren's attack, which he had no choice over, it was a trap, now the people aren't going to believe, they're just going to believe that Parody's always been like this. So it's very, very frustrating. It's very frustrating. And I also got very frustrated because Willie in that same episode, in episode 5, blames Eren saying, well, he stole the Founding Titan's powers. And that's always sat awful with me because I'm like, it wasn't Eren's fault. Grisha stole the Founding Titan's powers. Grisha stole them and gave them to Eren. So Eren really only has them because of Grisha. What makes this complicated is you have Eren, who has inherited these powers from Grisha. It's technically Grisha's fault that Eren has these powers. Grisha is the one that took the Founding Titan powers away, not Eren. He just gave them to Eren. But Grisha was functioning under a restorationist mentality. And I think that Eren is now too, with the whole fellow patriot line, with just wanting to destroy Marley and the rest of the world and free Eldia. That's a very restorationist ideology, which is what Grisha was doing. So Willie set this whole thing up to lure Eren in, but I'm like, Zeke was also involved in the Declaration of War. So Eren says he doesn't have a choice, but my question in all this is, when did Eren learn about the Declaration of War conference? When did Eren learn from Zeke that all this was going down? Because I want to say Eren had no choice, but if Eren was part of this planning session for this Declaration of War and he was in on it with Zeke and them, then yeah, there's some area there of grayness, but I don't know. Episode 9 doesn't give us that information. It tells us that 3 years ago, Eren figured out that him and Zeke were kind of on the same wavelength about the Founding Titan and needing a Titan of royal blood. And Eren was like, cool, Zeke and me thinking the same thing. What we don't know is when exactly did Zeke start planning this Declaration of War? Was it at the same time? Was it 2 years later? Was it 6 months ago? When did that happen? And when did Eren get on board? And how involved was Eren in this planning process of the Declaration of War? That's my question. And we don't have an answer yet. But it's just very complicated and frustrating. And I am going to try to play Eldian advocate and give everybody the benefit of the doubt and be as neutral as possible. I've gone into this series being as neutral as I can. I obviously have personal preferences with characters, with themes, but I want to be as neutral as possible because I have a feeling that Isayama is about to, especially with this last episode, he's about to just kind of rock our world and keep it all just spinning in terms of how complicated everything is. So anyway, the newest episode of Attack on Titan came out, and I saw that the words Eren Yeager were trending on Twitter. I've muted everything. I have no clue what's going on, so I thought since I can't watch any of the new episodes yet, I'll just watch episode 10, and maybe that'll make me feel better. So I've rambled enough. We're 15 minutes into this. A shorter intro than last time. I'm getting better. We're going to get back to maybe shorter intros. But with that being said, we're going to dive right into this. I'm pretty excited. Episode 10, A Sound Argument. Shouldn't need Whiteboard Coon for this one, should I? But we're going to start episode 10 of Attack on Titan, season 4, and we're going to do that in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go. I was feeling really good about my episode 9 discussion. Really great. Thought I had it all figured out. Thought I cracked the code. And then this episode happens. What? So, lots of things. Lots of surprises. Basically, I just need to not make any assumptions for the rest of the season. Just as I said at the start of this reaction, my opinions are probably going to change on a case-by-case basis because we need to talk about Eren. We need to talk about him in this because this whole episode, he did things in this episode from a year after the events of last episode that I was like, where was this Eren? Where was this Eren 3 years ago that's now there 2 years ago? Where is this? What's going on? And so there's been so many developed Eren. I'm like, what? If you had told me, it's weird because Eren from 3 years ago sort of mirrors the Eren now, but then you go 2 years ago and he's a lot different, and then he is now. So I'm like, what? Why we yo-yoing Eren? What's going on? And then Zeke. Zeke. I don't trust Zeke at all. And so, yeah, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about where everybody's at in this and just go episode by episode. And I hope y'all have a bookshelf to make or like a giant dinner party to get ready for, because I feel like these podcasts are just going to be insane because they're literally podcasts at this point. Everybody says it. I'm just going to accept it. Eren. I was like on board with a lot of what Eren did this episode, and then when you cut back to the present, something's happened. Let's get this out first and foremost out of the water. I don't think that some random hillbilly got Historia, the queen of Eldia, pregnant. No, I don't think so. Unless Historia found something out, and she realized that was the only way was to just get with some random dude, and that's it. I think that Eren is the father. I think we're going to go all Maury on this. I think Eren's the dad. I think Eren's the father of this baby. And that's why he wants to get everybody wiped out now, because he wants to keep Historia and his child safe. I think that Eren's the dad. It's Eren, or it can't be Zeke. Zeke was over in Marley. I think Eren's the dad. And that's what's caused his like dramatic change in personality. Yeah, I think Eren's the father. And I think there's little symbols and clues to it. Again, I could be totally wrong. No spoilers, right? But but no, I think Eren's the dad. I think he is. We'll go through this episode, but that's my crackpot theory. I think Eren's the father of this child, and he's freaked out, and yep. So we need to just talk about Eren in a timeline, right? We need to talk about Eren in terms of a timeline, because we had Eren. Okay, so we need to go from Eren from basement to now, right? We need to go from Eren to basement to now. So 4 years ago, all right, we had basement reveal time, which was crazy, and we had Eren getting Grisha's memories, right? Grisha's books with all of his info in it, right? We got all that, right? And him starting to access the memories. Okay, so that was 4 years ago. So let's go to 3 years ago. 3 years ago, Eren was from the last episode where we saw 3 years ago with Eren. And we saw that Eren was, he was basically untrusting of the whole thing with Marley. Of the Marleyans coming over. Eren was pretty untrusting of that, right? And it seems like he was untrusting. He was also worried about time, about needing time to protect parity, right? But he also learned that Zeke and him were on the same wavelength, supposedly, right? They were on the same wavelength about the founding Titan. Okay, so it kind of makes sense now that Eren 3 years ago, if you think about it, and I was putting together 3 years ago Eren with present Eren, which we'll do way over here, but Eren was untrusting of the Marleyans. Eren's whole world in the span of a year had been basically opened up. And as we know of Eren's character, Eren's not typically he's not a patient, calm character. He's always been like very fly off the handle, and he's always been like really rowdy. Like that's just Eren's character. He's been like that since childhood, right? He just gets easily agitated. And so it makes sense that 3 years ago, when he learned about everything from Grisha's book, he learned how big the world was, and he learned that it was just, another, walls beyond the sea, that freedom wasn't something that was easily as accessible as he thought. Then that kind of rocked his world. And for a year, Eren was kind of untrustworthy. He's like, we don't trust these Marleyans. They're just going to try to put us there. They're going to be another source of another wall. So it makes sense why Eren was untrusting of them. And he was worried about time. And as we established in this episode, which I'm so glad, I'm like, Isayama, thank you. I've been begging for some Eren to vocalize his compassion towards others. And he does it in this episode. It's just such a stark contrast from present time Eren that it's like, what? So clearly you can make the assumption that 3 years ago, Eren, when he's having that conversation with Armin and Mikasa at the firing range, he's worried about needing time to protect Parity. It's just Eren's not vocal about it. He's just like, he's worried, but he's like stewing. He's stewing on his own thoughts. He's in his own zone, and he's not, he demonstrates in this episode that he's not vocalizing his internal problems. He's not vocalizing what he's thinking internally. And Hanji tries to get him to vocalize, but he won't do it. So, yeah. And then he was excited because him and Zeke were on the same wavelength. So it's a mix of Eren being concerned, but also he's impatient because he wants to get with Zeke right now and enact the plan, and because he thinks it'll save Parity and save all of them. So Eren's actions make a lot more sense in hindsight. I'm like, okay, cool. So we're going to cut to 2 years ago. 2 years ago, right? Here's the thing. Are we going to get 1 year ago? Because I feel like we need to have it, because we're going to do present Eren over here. All right? We're going to do present time Eren right here. Okay. And we're going to just jump over here to present time, because we don't get that 1 year. The 1 year ago, I feel like that is roughly important. Or, 9 months ago. I feel like Eren, Historia is about to have a child. So I've got some theories. We can talk about this episode. All right, so we have 2 years ago Eren, all right? But we get present Eren first. And God, again, the light flickering. Last reaction, I said at the beginning that Eren was in darkness. No, there's one flickering candle on. But God, Eren looks so pissed off in that expression, in that mirror. The mirror shot of him where he's giving himself the pep talk. His eyes are so green. And just giving himself the pep talk, saying to fight and to fight. And then I was like, where is he? He's sexily in a basement. He's in a jail cell, sexily in a jail cell. And Hanji's like, what are you doing? Right? And, he has so much contempt for Hanji. And Hanji says, you were just saying fight to the mirror just now. Why? And Eren being taller than her, like Eren's grown in height and everything, and he's taller than her now. And she's like, hey, what's up? Look about Hanji over here, because Hanji's an interesting character in this episode. So we're going to talk about Hanji, all right? In the present time, visiting Eren, saying, were you just saying fight to the mirror just now? Yeah, and Hanji's wanting him to talk. And he won't say a word, and Hanji's like, you said fight, didn't you? Come on. What were you fighting? What are you talking about? And Hanji's just trying to get him to talk. Just trying to get him to speak to her. And he won't do it. And he's just getting more and more pissed off. Does that mean there's 2 fights? What are you saying? Mm-hmm. And Hanji's agitating him on purpose. Hanji just wants him to speak to them. Right? And, oh my God. Keeping quiet isn't helping. Normally people don't talk to themselves like that. No, they normally don't. Right? So Hanji's trying to get at what... Hanji's trying to do some psychoanalysis, like, why are you acting this way? Right? Now, and Hanji's like, I know I've never talked to myself in the mirror before. God, why is Eren so ripped? I still don't like it. No, with the man bun, Hanji's like, no, I've never talked to myself in a mirror, so that's kind of odd. And he's still not saying a word. And then Hanji's like, oh, by the way, I think your hair's cool, if that helps. It's all disheveled. It kind of looks like you're hardworking and carefree, just trying to make small talk, chit chat. When he says, what did you come for? He's so angry. Like, so angry. So Eren, He is angry and not talkative. Like Hanji is wasting his time. Right? What did you come here for? And Hanji says to talk. Come here to talk to you. The first time we met, didn't we talk about Titans all night? God, that callback. That callback like went straight to my gut. Went straight to my heart. But yeah, back in season 1, it was episode 15. Hanji and Eren, they talked all night about Titans. Right? They talked all night about Titans. I remember that. And they stayed up till dawn. Like he was trying to find out all this information, right? And when Hanji tells him that and says, though, you mostly listened as I blabbered on and on. Like Eren was just trying to be a sponge and soak everything in. And, oh God. Hanji's like, I honestly believe that you would never sacrifice Historia. And so we bring up, Historia is the crux now. Historia gets him agitated. And I think that's why he's the dad of the child, right? Yeah, he gets, and he like, just gets agitated, right? And then we cut to his face of him sacrificing Historia. And that's when we cut to the OP. Yeah, Eren's talking and just going on about the need to fight to win. Okay. But yeah, I forgot all about that moment where they just spent the time talking about the Titans. Like, what a callback. Now I want to go back and watch episode 15 when it was a simpler time, right? So, yeah, let's get past this intro and get out of here. So, episode 69, a sound argument. God. So 2 years ago. So most of this episode takes place between 2 years ago and the present, which is interesting. I like that Isayama is going back and forth and cutting to like what's been happening last 4 years. Like he's breaking it apart to where we're seeing year to year. And I think that's going to be important to understand Eren's psyche and all of this. But so 2 years ago, we see that it's been a whole year since that first contact with Yelena and Anyan and them. And I like that they're represented in the white shirt and the black like suits. They're like in black suits. I like that there's representation there. And so there's several of them, like a half a dozen people there. Okay. Interesting. I'm honored to work with you. And so then, yeah, of course Yelena wants to see Eren. So we need to talk about Yelena. We'll put Yelena here. So Yelena, 2 years ago, wanted to work with Eren. All right. So Yelena was all about working with Eren even 2 years ago. But Levi, I love Levi in this. Levi is keeping Eren away. For the record, I still think that Levi is expressing very appropriate caution in all of this. Levi's like, no, don't trust any of this. Not a fan. No. And you can see that Eren, it's been a year. And so Eren's hair's grown out even more, a little bit. And he's gotten taller. He's gotten taller than Levi. You can tell it's so sad because Levi's still stuck as being 5'3", which is hilarious. I'm like 5'8", so Levi would be like this much shorter than me. But Eren's gotten so much taller than him. And Levi's like, you're lucky. You will be working together. You're lucky enough to see his face. Like, no. And Eren looks down at him like, really? And Levi's like, no, we're not having you work with Yelena. Too risky. And Yelena's like, well, that's plenty enough for me. Today will be a joyous day. And so we find out that the port's complete and they're welcoming their first outside visitor. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9. Funny that. There's 9. Oh my God. Isayama, why are you doing this? There are 9 Marlians, including Yelena. Imagine that. Now, we don't know... Nicolo is not included in that, so we can say that there's probably more than just the 9. It's just funny that there's 9 there in the scene. But Nicolo makes 10, so it's not exactly 9. Okay, fair enough. But they're welcoming their first outside visitor. So the whole port was made to help welcome a visitor outside, to do something. And this is all part of Zeke's plan, by and by. The Soul Nation of Hizuru. This was all part of Zeke's plan. I'm gonna put Zeke... I'm going to put Zeke over here, all right? And I'm going to use the same marker and do Hizuru. We're going to talk about Hizuru. That was a revelation, that they're not exactly as noble as we thought they were, or I thought they were. So part of Zeke's plan, we're going to outline that here, because Zeke's plan's pretty Zeke. Okay. Parody Island's sole friendly nation, Hizuru. So, their only friendly nation. Because Zeke somehow found out about Mikasa. We'll talk about that. Okay. The special envoy Kiyomi Azumabito. Which Azuma's devil, right? Or it's Akuma is devil. Akuma is devil, not Azuma. So she was the one that saw Willie off. Kiyomi Azumabito is their envoy. Okay. Funny, she's the one that saw Willie off and basically just wished him the best of luck before she peaced out. And she's part of Zeke's plan and all this. So, curious. All right, so she meets all of them and has a special robe. And she says this family crest. And y'all, so secret's out, right? Y'all told me a few episodes ago that that the embroidery from the OVA is not just an embroidery symbol, it's one that's on her wrist. And I never noticed that she always had her wrist covered. I never paid any attention to that, but I'm going to reach over and grab this booklet. But this guide that I got, I was going through it, and when I got to the thing about Mikasa, there's a little panel down here that says, what did the brand passed down to Mikasa mean? When she was a child, Mikasa's mother gave her a brand on her right arm, and it's apparently her Asian family has passed this brand down from generation to generation. However, its meaning is currently unknown. Spoilers, Isayama, for all the anime onlys. But when I read that, I was like, oh, that's what everybody's talking about. And then it was the crest that was on the back of her kimono, the three swords. And the only person that Mikasa showed it to was Eren, right? And she said her mom said to keep it a secret. But since they're besties, her and Eren, she thought that, and he said, you showed it to me when we were little. It's a secret meant for today. So Eren's like, you can show it to her. This is, of all time and places, now's the time to show it, right? And Mikasa trusts Eren, so she's like, okay. So yeah, she pulls off the wrist and shows the brand. And they're all so surprised. And said, before she died, the symbols passed down from me to my mother. Saying that I should pass it on to my child. Mm-hmm. And they're all just so torn up about it, right? What an admirable deed. So old Mikasa, that brand. So we have the three swords, right? We've got the three swords that are there. And so over a century ago, so over 100 years ago, the shogun we Azumabitos descended from had a son. Okay. And then it shows him shaking hands with the King Fritz guy. He was on friendly terms with King Fritz and often came to parody. Okay. After the Great Titan War, Hizuru was defeated in a disarray. So apparently King Fritz was establishing parody well before the Titan War ended. Because she's suggesting he went back and forth from parody. Okay, so Mikasa's ancestor was the son of a shogun who was friends with King Fritz. Okay, and that makes sense. And after the Titan War, Hizuru was in disarray. Which makes sense. Yeah, the Titan War just threw everybody off, disarray, things were bad. Okay. In the confusion, a child of the shogunate was left behind on the island. So one child left behind. So they have mixed with Eldians, basically. Okay. So that's where Mikasa has the Ackerman blood, everything. So yeah. So let me see. The Azumabito ancestor left behind. Okay. Makes sense. And that is Mikasa's ancestor from 100 years ago. Okay, or grandfather or great-grandfather, technically. And you can see that they're all, really torn up about it. And, you're the lost descendant of our nation's ruler. So Mikasa's a princess! Hey! There we go, basically. Mikasa is the descendant of our nation's ruler. Okay. You're the hope of Hizuru. So Mikasa is the hope of Hizuru. Imagine that. It's tying Mikasa, Eren's the hope for humanity. Mikasa's the hope for Hizuru. And Mikasa doesn't really know what to do with that. It's you just sprung all this, it's like Princess Diaries. You just sprung this knowledge on her and she's like, what the hell? I didn't want to be somebody's princess or descendant of a royal ancestor. And so then they say, I don't get what a nation is. So that's curious. Yeah, the other military policemen, they don't know the concept of a nation. They've always been this kingdom, so they don't really know how it's different. Interesting. Now we've got leverage with Hizuru. So all the military guys are thinking that now that Mikasa, one of their own, is tied to Hizuru, that they think they have leverage. They have the high ground. And then one guy's like, well, what if it's a trap, right? And they said, we should ask Yelena's opinion. So, funny that. So, we have these military police asking Yelena's opinion. Again, don't trust her. I trust Anyan because he seems very sincere and genuine. Yelena's a follower of Zeke, and whatever Zeke's plan is, she's going to go with it. And I don't trust Zeke, so by proxy, I don't exactly trust her. And then this one guy says, no, we should not ask for Yelena's opinion. That's exactly what they want. And I'm like, you're having this argument while on either side of the door there are two Marleyan guards. Like, maybe keep your voice down. They're like hearing everything you say, right? So yeah, he says that's exactly what they want. And it's like, one thing is for certain. And that's when Pixis shows up. The sea has joined us to the world, but we're still a child learning to walk. Pixis is like freaking fountain of wisdom over here. He's just having all the things to say. And Pixis is like, man, you guys are acting like children. He's like, we've just barely learned about the world and you're already making assumptions and deciding who you should align with. He's like, we need to get as much knowledge as possible. So shut your traps and let's hear what they have to say. I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah. He just shows on in like Yoda and says we should sit quiet and hear what the others have to say. I'm like, yes. Pixis is like, keep yourselves in order. Okay, so we need to talk about the scene that happens right after that. Historia confronting Eren and Mikasa. I'm going to put Historia over here. Okay, so this is a really cute scene, right? I really like this scene with Historia and Mikasa and Eren, where Historia questions, why'd you only show Eren that symbol, huh? You got some secret flirtatious crush with him? And Mikasa's like, huh? And Historia notes that you've never taken off your wrist strap for anyone. So why him? And Mikasa's like, well... And that's when Eren slides in. Eren's like, hey, you're talking about me. And he says, you seem happy. Like, Eren's so... For some reason in this show, and maybe in the manga too, but anytime Historia is around, since season 3 on, every time Historia is around, Eren is super happy to see her. Like, Historia's having this nice little bonding moment with Mikasa, and Eren's like, hey, you seem happy, what's up? Like, he just pops in, right? Just to get in, like, you seem happy. And Historia's like, I am. You and I were both born with a heavy burden to bear. Oh, I thought she said it was talking about Mikasa, that both of them, but she says, no, you and I were both born with a heavy burden to bear. And then says, oh, she's talking to Mikasa. There's nobody else I'd rather rely on. Okay. So Historia is happy to rely on Mikasa and Eren. And she gives like Mikasa that little punch in the gut, and Mikasa's like blushing, like, okay. I'm not really used to this attention. Nobody's giving me attention like this. And Historia's so happy. And then Mikasa blushing. And what is this business with Eren's smile? Like, Eren's smile at her, and Hanji notices. In the background, you see Hanji look over, and she sees the way that Eren looks at her. Guys, y'all. So, Eren is really chummy with Historia, and Hanji noticed. Yeah, about that. Oh my god. She noticed Eren's stare. You stare too much, enough that everyone can tell. I mean, Eren, I was gonna say he's like Reiner, but Reiner didn't really have that. But yeah, that one moment, I want to take a picture of it to prove a rare moment in this series where Eren offers a genuine smile. It's rare, y'all. It don't happen very often. So, oh my god. But yeah, he smiles at her and Mikasa having this moment together. It's a historic day for both of our nations. Today is the only possible thanks to one who brought us together, Zeke Yeager. So, god, this is insanity. So Zeke's plan, he was going to bring the Hizuru nation to parity. All right, and again, 2 years ago. Okay. We got that. All right. And so we have Eren and Mikasa and Hanji and them sitting there. After meeting with him in secret, we've agreed to an arrangement. All right. Under the condition that we were able to meet Lady Mikasa. So again, a big question in all this, a big question is how they knew about Mikasa and wanting to meet her. I feel like they'd have to have some inside intel because Eren was the only one that knew about that, right? How did they know that Mikasa was, how did they even know about any of that? That's a big question. So I'm gonna put a question here. How did Zeke know about Mikasa? Because I'm trying to think, why would they go there to begin with? Who could he have questioned that would know? Because as Historia said, the only person Mikasa showed her wrist tattoo to was Eren, right? So unless there's some connection there where Zeke and Eren are telepathically linked because of Grisha, then how would Zeke have even known about the whole brand and everything? I mean, how did they even know that there was a descendant of their ancestor still on the island, right? Because Rod Reese persecuted them for so long. So curious. So curious. Okay. And then we cut to, they're in like some abandoned warehouse. Like Zeke's apartment needs some renovations. And she sees the ODM gear. This is top secret in Marley, but you recognize it. Okay. So the question with that is this omnidirectional, the ODM gear, right, is an anti-Titan weapon made in parity. So one has to question whether or not, did Hizuru originally design the ODM gear? Could it be that the ancestor that went over to parity, he was the one that had the design for the ODM gear, and so he's the one that developed it for the original Survey Corps, 100 or so years ago, and that's what they started using? Could that be it? Could that have been the origins? That's why she recognized the gear, because it was their original design. But the question is, it runs off of, he makes the comment saying that I procured this on my own, so don't worry, consider it a gift. So yeah, he pried it from Mike's cold, dead body and brought it back with him. However, to make this work, it needs a special fuel. They call it ice burst stone. So I thought that in order for it to work, they needed the gas. I thought the gas is what they needed for it to work. So maybe there's something else to it. And the ice burst stone is the Titan ore, right? It's a unique underground resource mined only in parity. I thought they just needed the gas to make it work. I didn't think they needed this ice burst stone. So I'm going to delete this little symbol here, right here. So we have this ice burst stone that is a resource only found in parity on the island, because that's presumably where the Titan ore and stuff is from. There should be traces of it inside the weapon. Okay. Interesting. Zeke Yeager said that if we cooperated with him, then our nation may just helm an industry that restores to its former glory. So Zeke's saying, he's basically like, hey, parity has all this stone, and we're going to let Hizuru mine it. Okay. For money. It's the diplomatic thing of what... So this is curious, because Marley wants the resources on the island, but Zeke is kind of going around Marley and going to Hizuru and to Azumabito and saying, yeah, you know what? If you go over there, I bet they'll let you mine. They're not using it. Parity's not using this resource. If you go over and talk nicely to them, I bet they'll let you come mine it out. In exchange for your assistance to return to his former glory. And we've established that Hizuru was in disarray after the Titan War, and they've been trying to get back to its former glory. So it wants the resources under the island. So Zeke's made a deal with them without consulting Parity about it, like you do. And yet he hasn't even prospected your reserves. Yeah, he didn't even ask him. And then a resource like that in this age of modernization might be worth its weight in jewels and treasure. suggesting that Parody doesn't even realize what it has. It's sitting on a gold mine, and Hizuru wants to come and just take it and be like, you guys aren't using it. I mean, this is really valuable, but you guys don't need it, so let us have it. And her licking her lips, Mikasa is like, no. Yeah. When she licks her lips, I was like, oh, okay. They're just greedy. They didn't come here under the guise that Mikasa is the hope for Hizuru because she's their access to all the wealth, right? They are greedy. And I think that Zeke knows that, right? Yeah, he knows that. And then, yeah, Mikasa's like, I'm just being used as a pretext. Yelena said the talks would go well since the Azumabitos are money grubbers. So Yelena said that they were greedy. And Yelena would know that from Zeke. So Zeke knows it. So yeah. So Mikasa kind of gets pissed off in this moment because she's like, they really aren't here because of my ancestry and because of my family ties. They're here because they want money. And I'm a doorway into that. Okay. So then the talks get really weird after this. Yeah. After all, it's not worth the risk coming here unless money is involved. Yeah, the only reason they came to Parody, they didn't come to Parody to do peace talks or to learn about their culture or anything. They came here because there's money involved and there's a chance of them to score it big. So yeah, Hizuru does not care about Parody except for what's underneath it. Much like Marley. Okay, and Pix is realizing that too. And Historia does as well. And so then Historia says, what exactly is the arrangement you have with Zeke Yeager? Like, he made this deal with y'all that you would come here and you want to mine our resources, but what exactly does he want? And then, that's when this gets just bonkers. Okay? As you know, Zeke Yeager has a secret plan in mind. Yes, Zeke Yeager's top secret plan that nobody knows about, that is suspicious as all get out. Yeah, he has this top secret plan in mind that he won't tell anybody about. To achieve it, Hizuru's cooperation is needed. Okay. There are 3 points to protect Parody with the rumbling. He has this, like, document, this, like, giant white paper that he's constructed. Just this very casual, clinical, there's 3 parts to this plan. 3 parts to protect Parody. Okay. All right. So at this point, I was like, okay, he's really thought this out, supposedly, and Hizuru is required for it. So let's hear the 3 points here. The first is a test run of the rumbling. So that sounds terrifying. A rumbling test run is step 1. Nope, don't like this. And so in that test run, to release a sample of its power and show the world its devastation. Okay. Next is Hizuru's cooperation. And that's where Mikasa comes in. So there's Hizuru's cooperation. So the first 2 points, I was like, okay, I get that. You want to do a test run. You want to basically show a show of power to the rest of the world and be like, don't mess with us. This is what we can do. Okay, we don't know the scale of that. And then the next is Hizuru's cooperation. Your military must be strengthened until the use of the rumbling isn't necessary. So basically, it's them providing resources for their military, right? For their military so that they can defend themselves. Okay. Which makes sense. They're like, we want to help strengthen your military so that you guys can protect yourselves and we won't have to use the rumbling. Makes sense. That part, I was like, okay, it's all making sense now. It's this third point that's problematic. Lastly, the founding titan and a titan with royal blood must be passed down. Okay. So a founding titan and a titan with royal blood must be passed down. So that, it wasn't surprising at the onset because I was like, well, that would make sense. And a titan with royal blood. Okay. Because what they're saying kind of goes back to the last episode. I was saying the biggest hindrance in all this is time. The titan shifters are on the earth for so little time that there's not enough time to really do what they need to do. So yeah, the third part makes sense. You want to pass down the founding titan and a titan with royal blood. You want to keep the Zeke-Eren combo going so that you have time to strengthen your military so that you don't have to use the rumbling. But there's the distinction that the founding titan and the titan with royal blood have to be separate. That's the distinction. You have to keep them separate. Okay? It can't be together. Because if they're together, then the King's Will start over again. Then it'll be the King's Will, and then we're back to square one. So they have to be separated. Okay. But this is where things get crazy, right? So this is where Eren gets pissed off. And yeah, that's the third point. And Eren is pissed. So because Zeke will pass on the Beast Titan to someone of royal blood. But that's the curious thing, because Zeke is royal blood. He doesn't need to pass it on to someone else of royal blood, right? Why can't he have a kid? I don't understand. Why can't he have a kid and pass it on to his child? I know some of you on Patreon's like, oh, there's a reason. I'm like, I'm waiting for it. I'm going to wait for it because why? Yeah. So the idea is that Zeke is essentially going to pass the Beast Titan to Historia. So the Beast Titan has to go to Historia, right? Okay. So Zeke has to pass on the Beast Titan to someone of royal blood, which would be Historia. And Eren gets so mad. And Mikasa's mad too. And she looks over at Eren. Until their 13 term ends, they have to bear as many kids as possible. Shit. Well, yep. So basically, and then Historia has to have kids. Until they're 13. But this is the weird thing. And I'm going to just put a little question mark here. Why doesn't Zeke have a kid and pass on the Beast Titan to them? I guess you could argue that it would be basically like what Grisha did with Eren, right? And I could see why you would think that Zeke wouldn't want to do that. Zeke doesn't want to do what his father did. He doesn't want to pass on. He doesn't want to get eaten by his child and make his kid go through that. I get that. I absolutely get that. But what you're doing to Historia is you're going to make her have a bunch of kids, and then they're just going to pass it on. It's basically going to be it's going to be the Reese family 2.0, right? We're just going to start a new Founding Titan thing, where except now the Founding Titan is no longer, the Founding Titan is going to be the one passed down to just random people that aren't royal blood, but the royal family is going to start a whole new Titan thing. And Pixis is really upset by this too in this point here. Yep. And Historia's like, this is basically what we were just trying to stop. We just ended this. We stopped this whole thing from happening. And Hanji is really upset about it as well. Even if weaponry advances, the rumbling itself is powerful. So if weaponry advances and isn't enough, you still need the rumbling as a backup. That's what they're suggesting. The rumbling has to be an option on the table. Ideally, if we get the weaponry that you need to protect yourselves, you won't have to use it. But what if that fails? You need a backup to keep parity safe. Oh my God. Unless we get rid of it, inheriting Titans will continue for generations to come. Yep. And then Hanji has in her mind the idea of just, it almost looked like Pixis. I was like, what is this? This bald baby Titan eating her. It kind of looked like Pixis. But then we're still back to, is it right for us to push this problem on our descendants now to save ourselves now? Wow. Yeah, that's a very real world application. Hanji is thinking that's such a real world application. Do we pass our problems on to our kids? Do we pass our problems to the next generation? That's been a big crux in this whole series, and this season especially, is the idea of just passing on your problems to the next generation and just keeping the cycle going. That's what we've seen in Marley with Falco and Gabby and their generation of the warrior candidates. It's just perpetuating the cycle even more. You're prepping the next gen. I'm like, Zeke, it's basically doing the same thing. It's creating a whole system that's very similar to what Marley's doing with the warrior program. Only it's, kept within the family somewhat. So, Zeke. But yeah, Hanji's not happy with it at all. And then looking over, yeah, and Historia is just kind of resigned, like, what do we do? And then Historia says, yes, fine. I'll inherit the Beast Titan. I'll do it. Historia's like, if it's going to save our people, I'm the queen. I'll do it. I'll do what I got to do. And I hate that. I hate that in that moment. And Eren, she says, as long as the rumbling is tied to our survival. And you can tell that Hizuru wasn't expecting her to say yes. But she does, right? But yeah, and then everybody's so sad because they're basically, they're like, Historia's just, we tried to get Historia out of this mess, and she's just thrown herself right back into it. And she's doing it, she's sacrificing herself for the sake of parody. She's like, yep, I'll become the Beast Titan, I'll have kids, and they'll inherit it from me. I'll do what I have to do to save my people. And she's willing to make that sacrifice. And they're all upset about it. And Mikasa says, reaches out to try to say something, and Eren is so pissed. Yeah. So Eren is mad. He's mad at Zeke's plan. Yeah. He says after years of getting trampled on, now we gotta breed like livestock. He's really mad at her. Or he's mad at Zeke about that because, again, I think that Eren likes Historia. And so this throws a wrench in everything because Eren, technically, I guess Eren and Historia could... Let's think about this for a minute. Eren and Historia. Okay, if this baby is in fact Historia's, right? Okay. Historia agrees. Agrees to be... I'm going to put it up here. Agrees to be the Beast Titan. All right? She agrees... She agrees to be the Beast Titan to have kids to replace her. Okay? So let's think about this for a second. Eren is not of royal blood at all. So technically, Eren and her could have a kid, and she could let that kid inherit the Beast Titan. That's a possibility, right? But Eren's mad because he's like, Eren cares for Historia. And because Historia is being sacrificed and basically treated like livestock. Like they're just going to treat her like livestock. It's tying back to Grisha and Dinah, right? This whole plan is tying back to what the Marleyan government was going to do with Dinah if they found out, right? Yeah, yes, this plan to save parody is tying back to what Kruger warned Grisha, that if the Marleyan government found out that Dinah was royalty, then they just have her have a bunch of kids and just to be on the radar to take over, a Titan and be possibly someone that could inherit the king's will. It's that. They would just basically have kids of royal blood so they could use them. This was that whole plan. Of course, Eren would be against it because it ties to Grisha, what Grisha and Kruger were talking about with Dinah. And Eren has spent the last year, he spent ever since, or technically 2 years, since he found out the stuff from Grisha, he spent the last 2 years trying to keep Historia safe. So of course he's pissed off by this plan. Yeah, it's not fair to Historia. And he speaks up what everybody's thinking of, right? And then when he said, if that's the price of getting to live, then Zeke Yeager can take his damn plan and shove it. Yeah, in that moment, I was all on board with Eren. I was like, yeah, no, if that's the price they have to pay. And Historia looks over at him, like just so, like she's like, oh my God, like him standing up for her. It's very reminiscent of Dinah with Grisha, right? And then it's too dangerous to gamble on having the rumbling. Wow. We need to spend our time exploring what other options are available to us. He's wanted other options. Oh my God. Which is such a contrast because in the last episode, Eren didn't know if they'd have time for options, right? He made that comment to Eren and to Armin and Mikasa that they didn't really have time for other options. They had to do something now. Something had to happen. And so that's why he originally was on board with it. But he quickly changed his mind when Historia was put in jeopardy. He was like, no, we need time to explore. which is such a contrast from what he said a year prior. So that points to me that he likes Historia. He wants to keep her safe no matter what. And he's willing to say that he'll defend, you know, we need time to explore other options. And Historia, that look on her face, like she's so, like, it's the Dinah look. She's so, like, proud that Eren stood up for her like that. And then what do? We cut straight from that moment where tears are welling up in her eyes to a shot of water all over the basin. Like water spilling over the basin where he's like washed his face. And then Hanji says, you should know I felt the same sense of urgency. Right? But I still don't get why you went on your own to put the island in danger. Okay. So Hanji's like, I know why you're urgent. Why you're urgent. Because they only have a year left. Like they're on a time clock and Eren only has like a couple years left. But Hanji's like, why'd you go put the island in danger? Right? And Eren's just sitting there listening to her. Oh my gosh. And just the look on his face. And then she says, don't you care about Historia? That line. Okay. Because Eren does not answer that question. Nope, he does not at all. Don't you care about Historia? So putting Parody in danger. So Hanji calls him out and says that by going to Marley, you've put Parody in danger. Hanji's like, I know you're urgent, that you want us to protect ourselves, but going to this island was not a good idea. And don't you care about Historia? And then he says, I ate the Warhammer Titan. And that's when Eren ignores the question. He says, I ate the Warhammer Titan, and Hanji's like, excuse me? It has the power to harden through the ground and make whatever it wants. And he's just so in the darkness in this moment. God, this is so creepy. Yep. He's in the darkness. He says it has the power to harden and make whatever it wants. In other words, there's no prison deep or strong enough to hold me. That look he gives Hanji. So Eren's like, I'm just here because of my choice. He's here by choice. He's like, if I wanted to right now, I can get out. Like, you're not holding me. He's like, I'm just complying for now, is basically what he's saying. Oh my gosh. And Hanji's like, he says, I can leave whenever I want. And Hanji's like, excuse me? I have the founding Titan and you can't kill me. You can't kill Zeke either, even if you threaten to. Oh my gosh. And so this moment where he walks towards Hanji, and again, is super buff Eren, and is taller than Hanji. So Eren's like, I basically have y'all by the balls. I have the Warhammer, so no prison can hold me. Ha ha ha. Okay, no prison can hold me. He's like, I have the founding Titan, so you can't kill me. I'm your trump card, remember? So you need me to be here. And first he says, you can't kill Zeke either, even if you threaten to. So, can't kill Zeke. I wonder why they can't kill Zeke. Is it because they need him to activate the rumbling? And they need Zeke to activate the rumbling because Historia's pregnant. So he's like, Historia's pregnant, so you need Zeke. Okay. All right. Okay. So Hanji, what is it exactly that you can do? Oh my God. And that look that Eren gives her. He looks, what can you do? Oh my God. So basically he's like, this is all up to me. He's like, what can you do? Oh my God. He's like, I have all this power. Why are you even here? What's the point? And he pushes Hanji up against a jail cell. Tell me, Hanji, if you've got something up your sleeve, let's hear it. Why are you here talking to him? Oh my God. And this was so tense. And he almost turns into a Titan. Like, he just starts to, like, transform and stops himself. Oh my God. And Hanji pushing herself away. Saying, Eren, you perv. I like that's Hanji's response. Hanji's like, you pervert, get away from me. Oh my God. You still in a rebellious phrase, you moron, you idiot. I like that Hanji tries to play it off like, what are you doing? To pass off that she's scared. Oh my God. And just leaves him in the darkness. And that shot, you don't see Eren's face. It's just him in the darkness of that cell. Oh my God. What has happened to him is what I want to know, right? And then Hanji collapsing outside the door. This was so sad. Erwin, you made only one mistake in your life. And I was curious what she was going to say Erwin's mistake was. But she said it was putting me in charge. Leaving me as commander. Because you're thinking about it. You think about it. And it's like, why did Hanji go down there? Eren thinks that Hanji went down there to fish out information from him. Which they did. Hanji did. Hanji wanted to talk to him. But there's a part of me that believes that Hanji did want to talk to Eren to try to... Hanji was trying to figure out why Eren was thinking the way... Because Hanji's been doing that with Titans for years. Hanji, like, pokes and prods and does the analysis and is like, okay, Titans, why are you acting the way that you are? So Hanji went down there to talk to Eren and try to figure out where his head is in all this and try to be like, why'd you go to Marley? Why'd you leave us? Why did you do something this risky? Why did you get in on this declaration of war? What gives? And Eren took it as, you know, Eren just called Hanji out and said, why are you here? Are you trying to get something out of me? You got an ace up your sleeve? Go ahead and tell me. He's like, because I really don't have to be here. Eren's like, if I want to get out, I'll get out. And it's like... So why is Eren still in jail then, other than to give himself a haircut and be sexy? I don't know. But then we sandwich in Historia's expression of, we tie in Historia looking at Eren with such admiration and love in her eyes, and we cut from Eren being in the shadows and darkness to the sun setting, and Historia looking out towards the setting sun. And then she's on the porch and they said, come inside, Historia. You got to take care of your body. And she is pregnant. She is pregnant with child. Yep. So Historia is pregnant. Now the question is how far along. I'm going to guess she's probably around 7 or 8 months. Probably. Were I to guess, I'd say she's around 7 or 8 months pregnant. She looks pretty far along, you know. But she's tiny, so she may not be that far along. You know, people that are really small and petite usually show a lot more than someone that's bigger. So yeah, information for public disclosure. Hizuru, a small eastern nation with its own unique culture whose head of state is called a shogun. Producing many talented engineers, Hizuru has flourished in weapons and aircraft development and was once an ally of the Eldian Empire. The crest of the shogunate depicts 3 single-edged swords in its design. So there we go. That explains it. They are engineers. All right? And that ties to making the ODM gear. Yep, it all is adding up. Okay, cool. But yeah, okay, so Historia's pregnant. Sweet. I was wondering this whole thing about Historia having a kid. Here we are, but is it Eren's? I think it is. I think it's Eren's. Oh God, I think it's Eren's kid. Tie back to this, okay? All right, so then we tie to these guys in the military police, Niall and all them, and they're all having this wine, right? Wine over dinner. And Niall doesn't say too much, but they're like, we should have stuck with our plan and fed Zeke to Historia as soon as he got to the island. So, I'm running out of space, aren't I? But yeah, so basically, we'll put the old military police over here. The military police's plan was to feed Zeke to Historia as soon as he got there. That was the original plan, right? As soon as he got to the island. But then, I'm trying to see who speaks up. Who would have thought? Who would have thought she played around and got pregnant? So that is curious. So yeah, Historia getting pregnant coincidentally lines up with Eren going to the island and getting Zeke. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't. Nope. And this guy's seeming like she messed around. So in the end, she's a low-bred girl who's queen in name only. I'm like, screw you. She's the freaking daughter of the king. Shut your face. Like, this guy made me really mad. I was like, I don't know who you are, but shut up. Like, I love Historia. So him calling her a low-bred girl, I'm like, she's the daughter of the founding titan. Like, shut the frick up. or the niece of it. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how things change so quickly that they were like sucking on Rod Reese and Uri's boots, 2 years ago, and now they're calling her a low-bred girl when she's their, actual blood. Ugh. But yeah, and Niall tells him to quit. Niall's like, shut up. The queen is free to choose a partner. Okay. Yeah, Niall's like, she can love whoever she wants to. We already confirmed the guy isn't anyone's lackey. So, okay, this is all... Here's the thing. You don't know who the dad is, do you? There's not been a paternity test yet. The guy isn't anyone's lackey. They grew up in the same area. And back then, he apparently threw rocks at her trying to get her attention. So it's a guy, so supposedly the father is a childhood friend. All right. Is a childhood friend that always threw rocks to get her attention, right? Some guy that tried to get her, and apparently he started helping at her orphanage out of guilt. Okay, so the guy, well, maybe not a childhood friend, was a childhood bully. Okay. And he started working at the orphanage out of guilt. Okay. So he worked for her out of guilt. See, this is all coming together. We're going to talk about this. Worked for her out of guilt, right? And then, okay, she shows up at the border. He worked with his head down for years, but the one who approached the other was the queen. Okay. And she doesn't look happy in that. Okay. So I think it's either one of two things. And we'll talk about this in just a second. Yeah, and then they're like, who cares about their love story? The problem is, why'd the queen decide to get pregnant all of a sudden? Yeah. Someone told her if you're pregnant, they won't make you into a Titan. Because, yeah, that does make total sense, right? If Historia... They're saying that Historia cannot become a Titan if she's pregnant. All right. One, I don't see why they care, because she's going to have... Zeke has a year left. So, here's the thing. Zeke has a year left. So, I'll talk about this in just a second. I want to get through this conversation. Okay. Yeah, I bet it was Yelena. The woman is nuts, and she's smart enough to be but she's smart enough to be dangerous. So I actually like that. That description is kind of how I view Yelena a little bit. She's smart enough to be dangerous. Not the whole nuts part, but Yelena is smart enough to be dangerous. Yes, I do think Yelena is very smart. I think Yelena knows exactly what she's doing. And so there's that. Okay. But yeah, and they're just topping off the wine and everything that Yelena told her. If the queen is pregnant, Zeke lives another day. Which, that they're not... I can get that mentality to think that, because Yelena is a big follower of Zeke, so she'd want to keep Zeke alive as long as possible. So it would make sense that from their perspective, I can see why they would think that Yelena would want to keep Zeke alive as long as possible. So he'd tell Historia, if you're pregnant, you can't become a Titan. So their theory is that Yelena told her to get pregnant to save Zeke. And that's their theory, right? That seems to be their theory. And they're like, Rogue. Rogue is his name. Okay. Rogue is gonna die. I have a feeling Rogue is gonna die. He's gonna be somebody that I'm gonna be like toasting him in a recap. You're drunk, Rogue. And then he says we should do it anyway. Make her a Titan, pregnant or not. I'm like, ew, no. And then Niall is like, her child might die. Yeah, we don't know the precedent of if you become a Titan while you're pregnant, you're turning into a whole different form. That's kind of unprecedented. We don't know how that works. And if something happens to the queen, it's over. There's too many risk factors. They're like, no, we need the queen. She's kind of the key to all of this, right? Because they know Zeke's royal blood, right? Eren knows Zeke's royal blood. So they all know it. They need the queen, though. Again, we're going to talk about this. I'm so intrigued. Giving birth is risky enough as it is. That sound argument might just ruin our country. That's where the roll credits, sound argument. Yeah, and then, again, here's the parallels. I commented about it in the reaction, but he's like, bring me another bottle, Marleyan. They're treating the Marleyans exactly like the Marleyans treat the Eldians. Yep, like the whole thing. And then they go down to get the ball, and Grease goes to get the bottle from Niccolo. And Niccolo in the shadows says, this one, right? So something's up there too, right? What the hell? In that moment, I was like, what's up with Niccolo? Why is he acting all weird? Why is he in the darkness, in the shadows? I thought Niccolo was a really nice character, but he's in the shadows. I'm pretty sure that wine is poisoned. I think he's going to poison the MPs that are suggesting that they turn her into a Titan while she's pregnant. I think they're going to kill the MPs. I don't know. But Niccolo all of a sudden has me worried. And I was like, I really liked Niccolo's character in the last episode, but him giving Grease the wine that I'm pretty sure is poisoned. What the hell, Niccolo? I thought I had a handle on last episode. I thought I had all figured out. Now I don't. I don't anymore. That's the problem. That's what has made me very nervous. Oh my God. So then we cut from that conversation. Before we go, I'm going to have to flip Whiteboard Coot over. It's going to have to happen. But before I do that, so here's the weird thing. Okay. So we have this whole thing with Historia. Historia is pregnant. She's 6 or 7 months along. Right? Where's my black marker? I had my black marker. Where'd it go? Okay. So in the timeline, it's somewhere, this is present time. So somewhere 7 to 8 months ago, all right, Historia is pregnant. Okay. That has happened 6 to 7 months ago. Okay. That sounds about the time that Eren would sneak over to Marley. That would seem around the same time Eren would want to sneak over to Marley, right? And that would give enough time for him to infiltrate and get with Zeke and talk with Zeke, right? Maybe? Okay. So I have two theories about this whole Historia being pregnant thing. Theory one is that Eren is the dad. Eren got with Historia and then afterwards freaked out about it. They both were like, shit, why'd we do this? And then something has happened, but Eren has gotten with Historia. He's the dad of her kid, but he went off. He's like realizing what he's done, or he's realized what has happened. And he's like, crap, we got together. You could be pregnant. Oh my God, what do we do? And then that's kind of set himself into hyperdrive motion with this plan, being like, well, now I have to protect you. Like Eren caring for Historia, he's like, I have to protect you. So, okay, I'm going to go to Parody. I'm going to go enact this whole thing. We're going to start the rumbling. We're going to save you from everything. And I'm going to protect you, okay? So, and then in that, I'm trying to work myself through this theory. And then if that happened, maybe Historia went to the guy. Because here's the thing about the guy that works for her. He started working for her out of guilt. He started working at the orphanage because he felt guilty that he pestered her as a kid, right? So he already has some like shame and guilt in all of this. And she came to him. It doesn't sound like he's someone she fell in love with at all. And in the image they show us, she doesn't look in love at all. It looks like she has sex with him against her will, that she doesn't want to, right? So either one of two things have happened. Either she got with Eren, realized, shit, I got with Eren, and to make it seem like it was someone else, to make it seem like it's not Eren's kid, or to not let the rest of the world know, to protect Eren, she got with this guy and said it was his. And she's like, oh no, it's this guy. And he was going to agree to have sex with her because he felt guilty and was working for her out of guilt. So when she asked him to, he's probably like, well, yeah, I was really mean to you, I guess. Sure, okay. Because it doesn't sound like a love story. It doesn't. So it's either that situation, or Historia learned from Eren or from somebody the plan about Zeke coming over and starting the rumbling, all this. Or Historia learned something about the plan that made her realize that she does not need to inherit Zeke yet. So she needed to be pregnant to keep that at bay. One of two things. And it may be a combination of both. It may be a combination of all those things. But Historia may have realized that, yeah, if she's pregnant, she won't become the Beast Titan. Did Eren tell her to? Maybe Eren told her to have sex with somebody, to have a guy. But I don't see Eren doing that. Eren cares too much about her. And here's the thing. When Hanji questions Eren about Historia, like, don't you care for her? He does not answer Hanji. He doesn't. He gets madder. And he says, look, I'm only here because I want to be here. You can't technically keep me here. And he turns the conversation away from the question. He never answers it. And we cut from him in the shadows, not answering that question, to her being pregnant. The imagery, the symbolism, I just get the idea that Eren's the dad. And that Eren's trying to keep Historia and his future child safe. That why do you do things, why do you risk something this deep? And it's because he's protecting his child. I think that's it. I think he's protecting his kid. And he had her have sex with this other guy, or she decided to have sex. Maybe he didn't tell her. Maybe she decided to have sex with this other guy to keep it a secret. Because here's the thing too. Unless Eren knows the specific timeline, we don't know if Eren knows that Historia is pregnant. We don't know that. We don't know that for sure. If Historia had sex with Eren and then realized a few weeks later, crap, I couldn't be pregnant. She may have gone to this guy. Historia went to him to make a story up, to create a narrative and be like, oh yeah, I fell in love with this guy and I asked him, we consummated our relationship and now I'm pregnant with this kid. To save Eren, because if they find out that it's the child of Eren Yeager and her, who knows, right? So I don't know. I'm just so floored by the fact that Historia is pregnant. It's blown my mind. And I'm also floored at the fact that this entire episode has been built upon the idea that Eren cares about people and that most of his decisions are because he cares about people. But it's Eren 2 years ago is flying in the face of present Eren, and there's something that's happened within those 2 years that we don't know about yet, and I want to know what it is. But we haven't gotten to that point yet, so it's going to drive me crazy. But again, I do want to touch base on one more thing before I flip whiteboard over. Zeke is royal blood. All of this is getting pinned on Historia. They're making it all Historia's job to have a kid. Again, why can't Zeke father? Is Zeke sterile? Is Zeke not able to have children? If that comes out, then that would make sense. If Zeke can't have children, if he physically is incapable of having any children, then yeah, it would tie everything to Historia. And that would make it to where, yeah, Historia has to be the one to have the kid. But I'm like, if you want to have all these Titans with royal blood passed down, by the end of episode 8, Eren and Hanji and everybody on the ship knows that Zeke has royal blood. So, or do they not? Or do they not? I hadn't thought about that. On the airship in episode 8, Zeke said, well, now that we have the founding Titan and a Titan with royal blood, I assumed that Zeke was talking about himself and that Eren and Hanji and everyone now know that Zeke is someone with royal blood. But maybe not. Maybe Zeke was just saying, well, now that you have me, you can pass me on to Historia and she'll be a Titan with royal blood and that'll change the game. But I just don't know why Zeke can't father children and those children would have royal blood and then they could inherit the Beast Titan from him. I don't know why he's pushing this all off on Historia. It seems rather bizarre that Zeke's totally chill with his cousin taking the responsibility for all this, but not Zeke. It's you're gonna die anyway, Zeke, so why not have it be your grid? Unless it's the whole thing with Grisha Yeager and he doesn't want to be like his dad. He's so against his father, he doesn't want to do the exact same thing his dad did. Which would make sense, but... So yeah, let's flip this sucker over. This episode is a mind trip. Again, this episode is calling everything into question. I'm like, why? So again, we're going to go up here 2 years ago, Eren, and we're going to go present Eren. Okay. So we get this scene of them building the railroad. It kind of sucks that they're the ones... Yeah, is this something that really needed us to do? Yeah, they're in charge of building the railroad. It's what the hell? And it's only 6 of them. You guys are really the ones in charge of this? Don't you have any other, Survey Corps members that could come out and help you? I love that Mikasa is literally carrying... For the record, railroad ties. My family uses railroad ties for our fencing for our cattle. A railroad tie, you need a literal tractor to put into the ground. There is no way a single person could carry one railroad tie by themselves. There is no physical way that's possible. But Mikasa's carrying 4 of them. 3 on one arm. That's not physically human possible at all. Nope. Oh my god. It's just not. But there she is carrying 4 and I'm like, you defy the laws of physics. So then, yeah, We have Jean and Connie. I like Jean. I think Connie had it in the, I think Connie had that same straw hat in season 3, and Jean had that same hat earlier on too, but Connie's Luffy hat, which, for the record, Connie is a Taurus. Luffy is a Taurus. I wonder if Isayama does that intentionally, making him have the Luffy straw hat. Mm-hmm. And then Jean makes the comment that we wouldn't be doing this, but that idiot opened their mouth. And he looks over to Eren. And Eren is always wearing the shirt with the lace-up top. That is Eren's signature style. If Eren had a style, it's the lace-up shirt, right? And in the background, I'm just now noticing it, but Sasha's like burying her head in the bucket, like trying to drown herself in the bucket of water, and Armin's like, no! It's really cute. I like that we have these. I'm just imagining this in the manga, and it gets me really excited in the manga to read this, because some of the line work on Jean and Connie is kind of like scratched, you know, like line work there. And Eren having that hat on. So yeah, and then we say we have to develop the island. We can develop the island and our muscles at the same time, my ass. So Eren was all about them building the railroad. All about the railroad construction. Which, for the record, it worked. Eren has abs of steel from working on this railroad. And then we can't do much but wait for Hisaru's answer anyway. So, and then Sasha's like drinking the water in the background as Armin's chasing her. That's so adorable. I love it. But okay, so they're waiting on Hisaru's answer. Okay. So while they're waiting, they're doing this construction. Oh my god, I love it. It's so good. And then yeah, there's Mikasa and hope that they can be a mediator to our world. So basically they were hoping that Hisaru would be a mediator, which is funny because that's what the parody plan was, right? That Hisaru would be a mediator in exchange for resources. Okay. In exchange for the resources, they would be a mediator to the world for them. Okay. God, and Mikasa just, with them beams, we're grasping at straws, trying to avoid the rumbling and save Historia. So, basically, back 2 years ago, they were trying to avoid the rumbling and save Historia. They were seeking out other options, is what Eren had said. Seeking out other options, right? And then, God, you have like Sasha and Armin chasing her down. I love it. And then we see Hanji and Levi coming up with the horses. You guys are working hard in this heat. And we have the ants. Mm-hmm. We're stuck watching this idiot. I love that Jean's talking about Eren. And then I love Levi's contempt. He's like, y'all are growing so damn big, and I'm stuck being 5'3" over here. I love it. Like, because, yeah, Connie's grown a lot. Jean's growing a lot. And then Eren asks about Hisaru. And they sent their reply. And it's like, no good. We can't turn to them. And it's just like, Eren's so... It's like, they're not going to help. No good. And in that moment, like, Eren's, like, eyes twinkling. Like, he just looks down like he's sad. It seems they want to monopolize Parody Island's resources. They won't help us trade with others. So that's it. But that's the thing. No trade. No trade. They want a monopoly. Surprising no one, right? That conversation they had with them earlier, you could tell. Yeah, the world wants Parody Island to be the root of all evil. And I like that poor Armin, in this shot of all of them together, like Jean and Sasha and Connie look sad. Mikasa's looking over to Armin. Armin looks terrified, and Eren just looks defeated, like, damn it. He doesn't look hopeless like he did 3 years ago or in the present. He just looks upset that they said no. So they're not going to be a mediator in the world because they don't want them. They want to just get all the stuff for themselves like Marley. We put like Marley. They're no different. And Hanji makes note that Parody, the world, wants to be the root of all evil. Which is so sad because, yeah, no wonder Armin gets upset about this. And then, so we cut over, like, we get everybody's expressions and they're all really upset about this. And then Eren's like, so we've got no choice but to rely on the rumbling and sacrifice Historia. And so in that moment, Eren questions if they have no choice. Okay. He questions if they have no choice but to sacrifice her. And you can see like him clench his fist, like he's upset, right? And Levi's like, that's right. Levi says that's right. We have no choice. Oh my gosh. I was like, so Levi says there's no other option. Oh my gosh. And then Armin, I'm going to tie Armin over here. Armin says they decided we're devils without knowing our intentions. Like they've not even talked to us, right? And he gets upset about that. And why won't they consider a path to peace? Which ties into his thoughts in the last episode. In the last episode, Armin made it sound like 3 years ago was the big catalyst, but it doesn't seem like that was it, right? It seems like 3 years ago, it was before Hizuru and all them came over, that there was talks about peace and everything. And then Mikasa says it's because they don't know. So Armin wants to still consider a path to peace. Mikasa says that there's too many unknowns and that they're afraid. That's why. It's because they don't know. They fear us because they don't know what we are. Right? They don't know what they are. Okay. We get a lot of focus on Mikasa this episode, which is good. And they won't trust people whose faces they haven't seen. And so Hanji's like, yeah, no, they won't trust people whose faces they haven't seen, so let's meet them. If you don't understand something, go figure it out. So, okay, well, President Eren, Hanji's plan to spread understanding and to understand your enemy, that's kind of what Eren did. That's kind of what Eren did. Eren kind of took Hanji's plan and ran with it. Hanji's like, let's meet him. If you don't understand something, figure it out. And Levi's like, wait, what? And Hanji's like, isn't that what the scouts do? We explore and we figure stuff out. We're not going to be easily defeated. And so the plan was to make a base. We'll put this down here, I guess. The plan was to make a base in Marley and infiltrate. So as far as 2 years back, that was the plan. So this wasn't something that just came out of nowhere, right? That had been on the table, right? And Hanji talked to Eren earlier and said that she knew that there was a sense of urgency, but he shouldn't have gone off by himself. I guess that's the thing. Eren took the plan and went alone. He took the plan that they had made up 2 years prior and went by himself to enact it. I like that Armin's running the train. Hanji has a plan for everything. And then I like that, because Sasha knows from Niccolo, she's like, oh, we'll be able to chat on a real Marleyan cuisine. And I like that Armin's running the train. I think that's funny. And then Akani's like, what should I bring? It would stink to get the runs. Ha! And then Sasha's fixing his sentence. She's like, stomach medicine, a toothbrush, a taste of home. And Mikasa's like, didn't you hear the plan? Like, you're not going there just to chow out on their food. And then Armin says, if the world knows we want peace, maybe something will change. So if the world knows that Parody wants peace, things will change. That part is a little bit idealistic. I do think that Armin, and this is 2 years ago, this is not present day Armin, but I do think that is a little bit idealistic. Like, if the world knows that we want peace, something will change. But it's like, but then, I don't know. I do think that's idealistic on Armin's part, because, yeah, the world wants you to be evil so that they can eradicate you, right? And I think that gets expanded upon here. Yeah. Because Armin's so hopeful, and everybody just nobody really answers that. And that's when Eren says, if only we had more time. I've just got over 5 years left. And Eren says, we need time. Right? We need time. So 2 years ago, Eren had about 5 years left. And so Eren right now has about 2 years left. Right? Maybe 2 to 3, just around that time. And I can't believe he has this conversation. We're going to have to decide who inherits my Titan soon. And they go through this. They go through this. It's kind of crazy. And of course, Mikasa volunteers first. And Jean's like, no, we don't know what the Ackermans are. They're weird. It would hurt plans with Hizuru if you became a Titan. No, we don't know how the Ackermans fit into all this. You can't become the Attack Titan. No. And Jean offers himself up. He's like, I'm way smarter than Eren, which is kind of funny because it's interesting, and I wonder if this is going to come up in later episodes, but Jean has always been Eren's double. So I wonder if that's going to be something that comes up in future episodes of the idea of Jean becoming the Attack Titan. I think Connie's right, because Connie's like, you're much better suited to be like a commander in all of this. Like, you don't need to be the Attack Titan. No. Or the Founding Titan. No, you don't. And so he's like, I hate getting an Eren hand-me-down, but who better than me? And then Connie makes a good point. He's like, someone that amazing we don't want to lose in 13 years, you moron. He's like, we need you to stick around. You need to be a regiment leader. You need to be like Erwin. You don't need to be. And so then I love that Connie and Sasha both debate on whether they should inherit the Founding Titan, but they both decide, and I love this is the best Attack on Titan humor, where they both, in total seriousness, deadpan are like, you're an idiot. You can't accept the Titan. Like, someone has to be smart. And I love that Connie and Sasha, they are twins. Yeah, they are twins. They are siblings. They share a brain cell because they're both like, you're an idiot. Well, you're an idiot. Well, you can't inherit the Titan. Well, you can't. It's probably one of the best straight deadpan humor Attack on Titan has done in a while. Just that quick cut back and forth. I just imagine it in the manga. It's so funny. I love that scene. It's so good. But yeah, and then Eren says Eren cares for all of them. Yeah. He cares for all of them. None of them should inherit his Titan. And that is so... That's so good. Yeah, the idea, you're important to me more than anyone else. I want you to have long lives. Yeah. And he's like, I don't want you to be limited, right? And that's so sentimental and sweet of Eren to say. And it gets them all blushing. They're all like Mikasa especially. Mikasa's really blushing and Jean's like, okay. And he looks over and Eren's blushing because he's like, what kind of mood is this? Why are you turning red? They're all blushing because Eren admitted, like, for the first time that he cares about all of them. They're more important than anyone else. And he doesn't want them to have their life limited. And Armin's already a Titan, so there's already that. Oh. But I love that. And it ties to Reiner. It ties to Reiner caring about Gabby, not wanting her to become a Titan, right? So this 2 years ago, Eren, is what I've wanted this whole series. I've waited for Eren to become like this. The one that would stand up. The one that would stand up for Historia. That was hardworking. That was like all about his friends. And then this present Eren is like a shell of that. And I don't know what's happened in those 2 years. He's so different. He's so angry. And I'm like, what happened to make you like this? Because yeah, this Eren that's blushing and everything, it's so different. And Armin tries to blame it on the sunset. He's like, oh, Jean, it's a sunset. That's making our faces red, don't you know? And then Jean's like, well, fine. Well, there's nothing we can do about the sun. And then, yeah, Mikasa looking over at Eren. And then they share that glance at each other. Eren and Mikasa sharing that glance that they're important. Because, yeah, I don't think Eren's ever vocalized how important they are to him. And it's like the first time. And, of course, the sun's setting. It's on a train. Midnight train! Oh my god! Yeah, the train. So we have the train in this episode where Eren confesses his feelings, and then you have the midnight train where Reiner does the same thing to Falco and confesses how much he loves Gabby. What the heck? And then we have the sun setting beneath the wall. And so it's funny, you had the midnight train, you had the train at sunset where they all confessed how much they cared for one another, and then we cut to 2 years later where the sun is setting behind the wall and there was Mikasa in the present time, right? And her looking at the sun setting and going up to meet with everyone. And they're all meeting without Eren. And Connie looking out the window. To think Commander Pixis would go as far to detain the volunteers. Okay, so yeah, they're being detained right now. All right. And so then we get this discussion. Since they and the scouts are so close, we weren't told in advance because they didn't want any of the scouts to give them a hint. And they're like, I guess he didn't have much choice. So there's a lot of talk about not a lot of choices in this episode. This whole concept of we had no choice is expanded upon. I'm curious what the heck is Mikasa in? Is she like in a robe? Like a bathrobe? What is that? Yeah, she's in a very odd outfit. Until Zeke's intentions are made clear, it puts us in a real pickle. Yeah, so for 2 years basically, old Zeke over here has been super quiet and super hush-hush. Suspicious. Yeah, we don't know his clear intentions. Yeah, and so then all them talking together, and Eren suddenly aboards Zeke's plan. So that's the question. Why is Eren suddenly, that was the big word that was thrown out, suddenly aboard Zeke's plan? What's the deal? Why suddenly aboard Zeke's plan? What happened in this 1 to 2 year time? What the heck happened? I assume we're going to find out at some point. So I don't want to make too many assumptions because I made a lot of assumptions in the last episode and I still hold true to some of those beliefs. But this whole thing with Eren changes a lot of things. It gives me a lot more perspective about where Eren's headspace is. And that was my complaint in the last episode. I was like, we don't know what Eren's thinking. Now we kind of do. But the question is, what happened in that 1 to 2 years that changed him completely? Because he seems like he's a total 180 from what he was before. Yeah. And then whatever the two of them talked about is something only they know. So something went down. Zeke and Eren had a talk. Okay. Something they talked about that only they know went down. What the heck was it? Why? What has happened? What is this business? Okay. What is the deal? And then I love that Connie says this because that's what I've been thinking about this whole season. Ever since Declaration of War, I've been thinking about this. Did that look like Eren to you guys? Not to me. It wasn't Eren. Wasn't Eren. If he's made up his mind to side with his half-brother over us. And then Mikasa's like, if he has, then what? And then Connie says what everybody's thinking is like, then we've got to prepare to come down. Like, so, okay, so Zeke is no longer... So basically, Zeke's plan was to activate the rumbling, to do the test run, right? That was that plan. To get Hizaru to give the military tech, right? And then to use Historia to become the Beast Titan and then have kids that could do the same. And this does not seem to be what Parody wants to do anymore. At least what the Levi Squad doesn't want to do anymore, right? And it's so complicated. And then Mika says like, no, we're not cutting Eren down. I won't let you. And Connie's growing out like these mutton chops. And Connie's like, you can't kill Eren. And Connie's like, then are you siding with him? And Mika says like, no. And she could tell she's like, I don't think it'll come to that. I hope it doesn't come to that, right? Eren cares about us more than anyone. You guys should know that. And she's going back to what he told them 2 years ago. That memory. And then Armin, Mika says maybe why he's so hostile. Maybe that's why he's so hostile to anyone who isn't one of us. Because he cares about us. Right? He cares too much. So Mikasa's theory is that he cares too much. And honestly, after this episode, she might be onto something. We'll talk about that. But yeah, I think she might be onto something. And then, but Jean says that's not it. Jean's like, no matter how strong you were, the old him would try to keep you off the front lines. Right? I don't know if that's entirely true because Mikasa's fought and Eren's not really had a choice but to let her fight. But then he says he made Armin destroy the port and pulled you into the fight. Jean is suggesting that he used them. So, Jean is suggesting that Eren used all of them. Okay? And that's not something that the Eren in the past would do. The ones he called important. And Connie agrees. Connie's like, Sasha wouldn't have died if he hadn't used them. And Mikasa tries to counter saying, well, that's because he trusts us. If we hadn't gone, he couldn't have done it. And then Connie's like, but Sasha died because of it. So when Sasha died, what did Eren do? And here was the thing. I did want to comment on this. Did he cry? Did he regret his actions? Well, Connie's making an assumption. And John's like, Connie, stop. And he says he laughed. And I was waiting for Mikasa to say something. And Connie's like, what part of it was so funny? What part of Sasha dying? But here's the thing about that. And he says, explain to me, Mikasa, why was Eren laughing? And I was waiting for her to have a flashback to season 2. Because in season 2, when Eren broke down, he was laughing. He was laughing and crying and he was pissed. And that's what he did when Sasha died. He started to laugh and he got pissed. And I was like, okay, Eren does feel sad that she died. That's just the way that Eren displays emotion. I laugh when I get scared, so I'm like, I totally get that. And I was waiting for Mikasa to say something about it, and she doesn't get the chance. And then Connie's like, you know everything about him, right? And I was waiting for Mikasa to say something. And then Armin's like, we'll just talk to Eren. Just me, Mikasa, and him. We'll just go do it. We'll find out his goal. And Jean's like, well, will it help? What if his goals are the same as Zeke's? Then what will you do? Jean's like, what are we going to do? And Armin's like, well, we won't know until we try. Now that the military has Titan serum, we've got options. So Armin is the one that suggests this. Armin suggests that if worse comes to worse, they've got the Titan serum. If worse comes to worse, then we'll use it and have someone eat Eren. And Mikasa's like, excuse me? He's like, the option of making someone we trust into a Titan who would inherit Eren's founding Titan. And I love that it descends. It goes from them above and descends to Eren with his tie-up, his lace-up shirt, as per usual, his fashion statement, his lace-up shirt. Just inheriting the Titan. Oh my God. And it cuts to Eren just looking straight ahead. But why? And then we have the moon, and then it cuts to the moon from there. And I love that just transition. And then we cut to them drinking the wine. They're drinking the wine. It's the same kind of wine that Niccolo gave them, that recommended to them. Interesting. And they're all drinking it, except for Levi. Levi does not drink the wine. No, he's just sitting there watching Zeke. Watching Zeke reading the book like nothing's wrong. Like he's biding his time. Like he's waiting. Oh my God, this episode. No. Okay. Give me a second. We've got to do Whiteboard Coon round 3. I wrote too big and I'm disorganized. So give me a second. Give me a second and let me clear all this up. Okay. So in summary, I need to just take this series episode by episode because Isayama is going to slowly reveal stuff to us over the course of this series. And it's just going to just completely change our minds as we go. So, because I went into this episode wondering why Eren was so detached. I was like, why is Eren detached? Why is he like this? What's going on? And in this episode, we see that Eren was not detached 2 to 3 years ago. Like Eren, basically, final green marker here. Eren has gone through this weird metamorphosis over the past 3 years. And we were getting to see pieces of it, but we haven't seen the full picture, right? So Eren, when it was 3 years ago, he was frustrated and I would say he was frustrated and maybe a little paranoid. Maybe in that, because I would argue when he's at the shooting range, he's worried about the rest of the world, right? He's worried about the rest of the world attacking them. And he's not only frustrated because they don't know enough, he's frustrated they don't have enough information, and he's paranoid because he feels like Eren's big thing has always been that he's felt powerless, right? That's always been Eren's thing. That he felt powerless to do anything. That's been his whole theme running through this entire show. And 3 years ago, in the last episode, we kind of see that embodied by him being frustrated, by being paranoid, and being slightly distant, right? But then he learned of Zeke's plan, right? He learned of Zeke's knowledge about the founding Titan, right? And that gave him somewhat hope. He's like, okay, someone else is on the same wavelength as me. They get it. Okay, cool. And so he just wanted to kind of figure out what to do. And he's like, we need to do something, right? The whole thing was we have to do something. So we cut to a year later, 2 years ago, Eren stands up for Historia. All right. Eren stands up for Historia, has those great moments with her. He is mad at Zeke's plan because Zeke's plan, it's kind of like he feels betrayed by Zeke's plan in that moment. When they're in the courtroom with the Hizarus, he's like, I thought that Zeke and I were on the same page, but my whole deal is that I want to protect Historia. And Zeke's plan that I thought was like what I was thinking is flying in the face of that. So he gets pissed off about it, right? But he still seems in good spirits. He seems optimistic at the training he did. And he says that he cares about his friends, right? He cares about his friends and that they just need more time for other options. We need time to expand our options. The problem is that Levi, and here's the thing, this is kind of, I can't blame things on Eren because I talked about in the last episode, but there's a lot of external factors that are affecting Eren here. So I'm going to put Levi over here. Levi, during this time period, tells Eren there is no choice anymore. I'm like, what? He tells him there is no choice, but the only thing that they have right now is to use Historia and the Rumbling, because that's all that they're at now. But then Hanji kind of counters that and says that they'll infiltrate Marley and establish a base. Kind of to do like what Gabby told them during the dinner. They're like, we'll show them the people of parody aren't devils. They're not bad. That kind of blew up in their face. So it's kind of like Eren just took the two plans they established 2 years ago and he kind of ran with them on his own and made them his own thing. So you could argue that. So then, but Eren's seemingly in good spirits. He cares about his friends and he's just waiting. There's time for other options, right? He seems like he's still against Zeke. And then we have this mystery time period. This mystery period of like 1 to 2 years ago where we don't know what happened. We don't know. We're assuming that there was a talk with Zeke, right? That Eren had a talk with Zeke about something. We assume that communication happened. And Historia became pregnant. Something happened in that time period. Okay. So then we have the Eren of now. The Eren of now is angry. He is angry, but he's also focused, right? He went to Marley on his own. He left without them, and he basically enacted the plans that Levi and Hanji set out. He infiltrated Marley and established a base at the hospital. So there's that. He's been in contact with Zeke. But he didn't actually see Zeke. He's been talking with him. He's been communicating with him, which is funny because while he was in Marley, he never tried the whole founding Titan thing with him there. Maybe you have to be in close proximity to parody for it to work. Maybe while they were in Marley, they were too far away for it to activate the Rumbling. Maybe that was it. I don't know. I don't know if there's a proximity thing involved with it. But he was in contact with Zeke because that's where the whole baseball glove comes in with the baseball, right? That's where we have the baseball glove. And Zeke probably couldn't go out to see. Zeke's always with Peek and the others, so he probably couldn't go to see Eren on his own. Okay. So there is that. And then Hanji notes that there is an urgency about him. An urgency because Zeke has 1 year left. And he seems to be on board with the plan now. But 2 years ago, he was not. And then the feelings about Historia, we don't know. Yeah, feelings about Historia. And then about his friends. I mean, I think he grieved Sasha. I do. In hindsight, looking back, I think he grieved Sasha's death. But he is convinced that there is no other options left. There's no other options. That they have to do this. That's the only thing they have to do. So something has happened in this 1 to 2 years ago that we as the audience don't know yet. And I'm like, okay, Isayama, Eren did a total personality 180. What happened? What did he find out that rocked his world? Because back 4 years ago, when he went to the basement, he had a total flippant personality from what he found out. What did he learn in that 1 to 2 years that's changed the game from him not wanting to... He told Zeke's plan to shove it, and then 2 years later, now he's on board with it? Or is he? Or is it a trap to lure Zeke in? I don't know. Meanwhile, you have Zeke in the forest with Levi. Historia can't eat him because she's pregnant. And Levi is keeping him away from Eren. Okay. So Levi doesn't trust anybody. Levi does not trust Eren. Levi does not trust Zeke. Levi's like, nope, something's up. I don't like it. I think it's more that Levi doesn't trust Zeke. Levi thinks that Zeke is making this all an elaborate trap. I don't trust Zeke. I'm like, this all reeks of something suspicious, and I don't like it. And so something is happening. Something is happening under the surface. I really like Niccolo, but now I don't know if I trust. Niccolo was acting really weird in the wine cellar. Why? I don't know if it's a red herring, what the deal is. I don't like it. But there's that. And then Armin. Here's Armin's thing. Armin is a strategist, and when he's pushed up against a wall, he'll come up with a strategy. It just may not be the one that you want. And Armin's pretty self-sacrificing. So Armin's deal is that he still wants peace, but he's not sure it's possible. Armin's suffering through a conflict here, a crisis. And he's basically saying that we need to talk to Eren. And if we cannot trust Eren, if Eren isn't trustworthy, right, then we use the serum. And I'm guessing he's assuming that they'll just get Eren and just use the serum and then hold Eren down. I'm assuming he'll turn into the Colossal Titan and hold Eren down and fight him. But that's the thing, too. Here's the thing about Eren as well. Eren has spent this entire series powerless. He spent this entire series lamenting the fact that he didn't have power to do what needed to be done. He didn't have power to do things. He lamented that in season 1. He lamented that in season 2. In season 3, he just wanted to die because he didn't see the point of it all. Now, here's the problem. Eren has power. And he knows it. Eren has the Warhammer Titan. And he knows it. When he told Hanji in the jail cell, he's like, I'm here because I want to be. He's like, if I wanted to walk out this door right now, I could. But I'm here. He's waiting on something. Something's up. This episode, I feel like episodes 9 and 10 have been it's like someone's planting a time capsule that's also a landmine. Someone's digging up a time capsule that's also a landmine. It's like, oh, look, Isayama left us all this time capsule. What's happened in the past? What's this timer on it? And it's going to explode. Zeke is suspicious. Something's going on. Zeke, the fact that he's kept his plan secret all this time is why? Someone on Patreon, I think it was Usacha, was like, there's going to be conversations with Zeke come up that are going to be interesting. I am so suspicious of him. I can't read him. That end scene where Levi's just staring at him. Levi doesn't trust Zeke, and he knows something's up, and Zeke's just biding his time. But Zeke set all of this in motion, right? Zeke has set all of this in motion. And it's so frustrating. So, trying to look at the situation, you have Hizuru, which could be their ally, but they just want the resources, like Marley. They're no different. They just want to monopolize the resources. And because they're greedy, they're not going to speak on behalf of Parity for the rest of the world because they don't want the rest of the world to get a partnership with Parity. They want to be the only sole partners with them. But they don't really have anything to bring to the table, right? They're like, oh, we can give you some technology, but in turn, we're the only ones you can be in contact with. And Eren kind of screwed the pooch on that because he's like, no, we'll come back. We're going to look at some other options. And Hizuru's like, well, then fine, screw you all. We don't need you. Hizuru's biding its time because Hizuru's like, well, you say you don't need us now, but you might in the future. So sure, explore your other options, but you don't really have any. So you'll be back. Hizuru thinks that they have Parity by the throat Because they're like, you guys aren't going to find any other allies. We're your only ones. And if you don't want our help right now, you will eventually. So we'll just bide our time until you come back and help us. So there's that. They can't really, the rest of the world now, because of Willie and McGath and Eren's whole thing at the declaration of war, they can't really, Armin's whole thing about wanting peace, it's not possible right now because the world is reeling from this attack. So I have questions. Questions going into episode 11. Into episode 11 of this. I'm like, what's Zeke's deal? What is his plan? What is his secret plan? Why can't he have kids? That's my big thing. Why can't you have the kids? Why does Historia have to do this? Why can't you have kids that inherit your founding titan? Your beast titan that have royal blood? No. Don't like it. Why is Eren different? What made Eren change? And then who is the father? Because I'm sorry, I just refuse to believe that Isayama would have Historia, Queen of Eldia, one of the most important characters in the story, have a kid with some rando farmhand that we had known nothing about. I refuse to believe that he's going to do that. Unless it's intention, unless the father is some rando on purpose. I don't think it's a love story. I think that's just the gossip. I'm like, how is it a rando? No. So I don't know. But I refuse to believe that it's just some random farmhand that's the dad. I think it's Eren. I think Eren is the dad. I think Eren's the dad, and that has spurned him into hurry up mode because I've got a kid on the way. I need to protect that kid in Historia, and we need to get rid of Zeke. Or I don't know. Zeke's whole plan of being in mystery is throwing me off the most. And I think that I'm like, are they staging a coup? Are they going to stage like a coup from inside, from the Marleyans inside now that Zeke's there? Because Yelena is on board the Zeke and Eren train. So is she going to lead a coup against the military police? What's going to happen? I don't know. Gabby and Falco are still in prison. So Gabby and Falco are in a cell somewhere. We haven't seen them. Flock. We haven't seen Flock. Eren's supposed bestie. We haven't seen him in all this. And the fact, I'm so curious. When Eren told Hanji that he could leave any time, my question was, okay, then why are you still here? What are you waiting on? And I feel like he's waiting on something. And we don't know what that is. So I don't know if he's waiting on to see if Armin and Mikasa try to talk to him. If he's banking on that, if they're going to try to communicate with him. Because that's the thing. They haven't talked to Eren so far. Armin says that they're going to, but I had a really great feeling. I finished episode 9. I felt great. I was like, cracked the code, figured it all out. Just gotcha, Isayama. And then this episode, Isayama was like, yeah, you thought you knew it, but you don't. And you still don't, because we don't know what's happened in these 1 to 2 years prior. We don't know what happened last year, in between the last year and now, other than Historia had sex. That's all we know for sure. That is the only thing that's been established within the last year. That's it. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. As per usual, please no spoilers. I'm probably going to wait until Wednesday or Thursday. I'm recording this on Sunday. So I'll probably wait till after Tuesday when episode 8 airs on Patreon and episode 6 airs on Twitter. God, my thoughts have completely changed since then. For both of those episodes, they've completely changed. So, yeah, I'll probably wait till Wednesday or Thursday to record episode 11 and get your comments from those episodes. But yeah, what the hell, Isayama? I have a feeling this whole season, the rest of the season, I'm just gonna be like, what is happening? So, but we'll break it down, right? So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back again soon with more Attack on Titan Season 4. Bye.